We honestly cannot do what we do every single day without you, the fans. The support that you give us, the support the retailers give us, that allows us to do something that very few people get to do, which is go to work on comics, enjoy what we do, and continue to spread the word. So thank you, and give yourself applause. I will introduce everybody, give a little bit of a preamble, and then what we can do is go to questions and have just a really cool session here. So this is Joseph Rybant, executive editor at Dynamite. He oversees all the books, makes sure that if they don't come out on time, they're at least the best quality they can be, which you prove that they are. Thank you for being here again. I'm Nick Barucci, CEO and publisher. To my left is Luke Lieberman, who is one of our writers currently working on Red Sonja, Birth of the She-Devil. He's worked on Man with No Name with us and a few other titles. Next to him is Christopher Priest, who just launched our Vampirella #1 to 130,000 copies. Thank you.
Yeah.
I bought them all myself, so.
Impossible, I bought one. Next to him, we have Mark Russell, who has tackled Red Sonja and also reinvigorated the character, did something that I think some would say was very difficult, and put out a series that's one of the best series we've ever had. So thank you, Mark. And Eisner nominated as well, that's right.
This year.
This year.
Oh.
Next year is you.
Partly,
Last year I was more.
Well, don't worry, you'll be next year. I know the judges, I'm bribing.
Okay.
part of my nominations for Lone Ranger too.
Yeah,
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
which is exciting.
Got a little ring in the room.
Yeah,
I'm wondering
maybe it's just me. I tell you what, let's see if I can talk. You guys can probably hear me without that better, right? So let's go with this. So, and then, you know what? One of the stars of San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm going to give him a little bit more attention because this is his year. He's someone who I've known for 30 years. He's one of my closest friends in the industry. An artist who has one of the most enviable careers you could ever have. He's worked with Greg Rucka on Wolverine, the #1 selling book. He's worked with Grant Morrison, Garth Ennis, Warren Ellis, and so many great creators. He's had critical acclaim, commercial success, truly a career to be envied. Derek Robertson.
too kind. Thank you. Gonna make me all misty over here.
What Christopher said is he's not African American because Christopher thought he was big and African American. Was he surprised? So what we want to do is run through a few things real quick. It's our 15th anniversary, so again, thank you. We could not be here without you. You guys are awesome. As you know, our first series were Army of Darkness and then Red Sonja, and then over the years we acquired Vampirella, which came out Wednesday. A little fact, Wednesday was the 50th San Diego Comic-Con. It was also the exact 50th anniversary of Vampirella Magazine #1 on the newsstands. So we could not have planned it that way. So it was really, really, the stars aligned. And again, there you go, Vampirella through the years. We have great Alex Ross, Frank Cho cover, an awesome cosplay cover, and we got a lot of attention for the series. So much attention that we had 84 covers. So that is a lot of covers. That's Marvel level covers. I'll mention that most of those are retailer exclusives, and that is extremely rewarding knowing that retailers had enough faith in the Vampirella relaunch that over 70 of them wanted their own exclusive cover to support and to have in their stores. So that was, again, rewarding. I don't know what else to say. We have a Vampirella statue coming out based on the Jose Gonzalez door poster that everybody loves. We also created a Vampirella standee based on that, which has been a huge hit for us. I do think this actually helped in the attention we got because retailers were able to stock up Vampirellas in the display and put it by their register. We're creating cool collectibles like coins. You'll see 4 incredible artists here with J. Scott Campbell, Archer, again, Jose Gonzalez, because you can never get enough of that image. It is so iconic, and Alex Ross. We have the Vampirella 50th anniversary trading cards. It's a marquee box of trading cards. And we have the boys, as we said. So the series hits July 26th, 8 episodes. I have only seen the first episode. Derek actually got to fly to Toronto and watch
Yeah, I
them
was on
film.
the set, yeah.
He had a great time.
I
And
never get tired of seeing how lovingly they recreated that cover. That
Yeah.
just blows my mind.
Well, the most amazing thing, I'll touch on this, and then we really do want to get to everything. Derek was a huge Simon Pegg fan from oh God, I was Space
I was
and
watching
Hot
Space.
Fuzz and
Yeah.
everything.
No, it was before that.
Before
Yeah,
that?
it was funny. He was like not even known in the in the U.S. at all. I happened to be watching. You're telling how he got in the book.
Yeah.
You mind if I just tell it?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. It was funny.
You will actually remember how it happened.
Well, yeah, you're already telling it wrong, Nick. We were going to base Huey on a friend of Garth's. He had a friend that they called Wee Huey, or Hugh, and he had told me when we were creating things that he wanted to base it on him, but because this was pre-internet days, it was hard to get. If you got a picture of somebody, they had to mail it to you. And we just never got around to getting a photograph of his friend, so I just started designing the character out of my head, and he just never looked quite right, and I was trying to remember what Garth's friend looked like, and I was watching Spaced. My co-creator and writer of Oliver, the series I'm doing right now, is Gary Whitta. He also wrote Rogue One, and we've been friends forever. And he turned me on to Spaced, so I happened to be watching, this is how long ago it was, a videotape. So I was watching videotapes of Spaced, and Simon Pegg was playing a character. If you've seen the show, he's an aspiring comic book artist who works in a comic book store. So I was really tickled by that alone. So I decided, that is my image of Huey. So I kind of did a sketch of him, ran it by Garth, and Garth's like, yeah, that works. And I drew him into the book thinking he'd never see it, because in those days it just didn't happen that way. And then in the course of having based the character on his likeness,
They're not getting sued.
then, no, it almost came to that. Stepping on my punchline here.
Sorry.
But what was crazy though is that he did find out, but then Shaun of the Dead hit about the time we were rolling out issue 1. So it was this, people were walking around Comic-Con dressed as Shaun with the cricket paddle and everything, and I was like, oh, that's crazy. But on the announcement, Rich Johnston of Bleeding Cool put us in touch. And I thought he was going to chew me out, and he was like the opposite. He's as nice as you think he'd be. But he got a hold of us, and I wouldn't recommend any of you rolling the dice on this. I got lucky. But he's like, no, I'd love to be in the comic. I'm a big fan of yours and Garth's, and I love comics, and this is just awesome. His quote was actually, he goes, this is the coolest thing that's happened to me all day, and I've already jumped through a plate glass window. So, we got lucky. So, and then if you don't know already, Simon is in the show as Wee Huey's dad. So we're very excited that he, a long way around to go and give him a paycheck for his generosity, but good karma all around.
Exactly.
Excellent story.
So, and of course, it took 11 years for this show to happen
Yeah,
from when they
no
optioned
kidding.
it.
Optioned in 2008, but it's all worth it. Walking by that Marriott, I just
Exactly. So, and here's some of the boys' omnibuses, again, coming to Prime next week. And I've only seen the first episode, but it's great. It's true. They made the changes that people who never read the comic would probably need to understand the story better, yet they just kept to the heart of it. I mean, you've got Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg producing it, who are huge fans of the series, and you have, is it Simon Krint? Who's the showrunner?
Eric Kripke,
Eric
who
Kripke,
created the show Supernatural.
So let me just say, when he took helm of this, he said, I'm doing the boys.
Yeah.
I'm not watering this down in any way, shape, or form. So it's kind of like, unless you have really mature kids under 18, harsh for them to say it. There is some stuff that happens in that episode 1 that you're like, okay.
Yeah, no, it's the boys. It doesn't do the show verbatim, but they do a great job of plucking from the timeline and bringing what's necessary. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, a TV show is a TV show, and the comic book's the comic book. And if you've never read the comic, these omnibuses are excellently put together, and kudos to you guys by that.
We had great artists to work on those covers.
They're sweet. But and I like how they put all the stuff from the the hardcovers in the back. It's really a lot of fun making of extra goodies in the back of these. But the best part is if you've never read the comic, you can watch the show independent of reading the comic, and it works on it as its own thing. But if you have read the comic, you'll recognize stuff and you'll see what they're doing. But what's important about the show is that it feels right. It feels like the characters. It feels like the story without being a verbatim adaptation.
Here's the photo covers. We worked with Amazon Studio to create photo covers as well. I will throw out there, a lot of retailers are carrying this on the show floor. And shameless plug, if you can't find them there, dynamite.com, feel free. And look at some of that. When you look at the artwork, you can see why people gravitated towards it. You could see why the strength of the art really helped create the source material. Like I said, not for the squeamish. Can we get past that real quick? There's some kids in here. So we also have Death Divine Devil with Gail Simone launching in August. We have Altered Carbon. We're working with Richard K. Morgan on his series that happened to be adapted on Netflix. We were able to get the rights, and it's one of our best-selling novels. We've actually sold over 10,000 of the hardcover already, plus signed editions. White Sand Volume 3 of Brandon Sanderson. We've had great success with this. And as I always say, thank you for your support. So we're up for questions. Come on up.
Yes.
Yeah, shout it.
Can you do any more Lord of the Jungle series or comics or one-shots?
We will be. We will be. A lot of this year ended up being a focus on both Vampirella and Red Sonja. They are two of our premier properties. So we really looked at the publishing schedule with Vampirella's 50th anniversary this year, and Red Sonja's 50th anniversary is only 3 years away. I mean, it's, it'll be here before we know it. And there's a lot of planning to do there. Luke had a special story with Birth of the She-Devil that he wanted to tell. We decided we were going to do something. We've been asked forever, do a Red Sonja Vampirella crossover, do a Red Sonja Vampirella crossover, do a Red Sonja Vampirella crossover. And I'm not kidding. And we had to get the right writer. And when we finally were able to sign Jordi Belair, she's one of the best colorists in the industry, but she's also just a plain great creator. And she's getting a lot of attention for her Buffy series now and some of her other writing, including Image. So when we were able to sign her, and she came up with a story that married the best of both worlds, it doesn't, the beautiful thing about it is it stands alone. It doesn't affect the Red Sonja series. It doesn't affect the Vampirella series. And it just has a really great storyline. We looked at her plans and said, why do a miniseries? This is ongoing. Why not do it ongoing? It's a great story. And, and also we had the Red Sonja Vampirella Betty Veronica series. And yes, we did. Now here's the funny part about that. Can you tell I can talk a little bit? The funny thing about that is it's been very successful. And we talked to Archie about doing another 6 issues. And instead of doing what we would normally do or other publishers would normally do, which is finish number 6, wait 4 months, then do number 1 again, we decided let's continue with number 7 and up. Because if Amy came up with a great second story, why take a break? Why not continue it? And, if it continues to sell well, which it seems like it does, as long as Amy has story ideas that we feel benefit all 4 characters and benefit Dynamite and Archie and all the rights holders, that should continue.
Okay, Nick. Okay, because you're losing me here. So you're saying that Vampirella
Yes.
and Red Sonja
Yes.
meet Betty and Veronica.
Yes.
You're insane. That sounds like a lot of fun.
My doctor said the same thing about that. I am insane.
Okay.
Well, he said crazy, but a little off center. I think he said when he was polite.
Okay.
Did we answer your question?
For the creators working on the licensed properties, the Lone Ranger, Vampirella, Red Sonja, did you come to Dynamite with pitches, with ideas for that? Did Nick come to you and say, hey, you guys are great, do you have ideas for me on these stories? How did you match make?
I'm lucky enough to know the licensor because he's me.
Of Red Sonja.
Of Red Sonja.
Red Sonja. So that one, I don't write something every year. I kind of pick and choose when I want to step in and write something. And Birth of a She-Devil was just something. Honestly, that story's bounced around in my head for about 3 years. And what happens is I marinate in it long enough that when I actually sit down and write it, it's just it just comes right out. I mean, I'll write like 2 issues in a weekend.
I hate you.
Well, I mean, if I was trying to write an issue or 2 issues every month, then that's hard. You know, it's hard to kind of keep coming up with it. But if you have to write 4 issues every 3 years,
You know what? I will say 2 things on this, and then definitely move to Christopher. You know, as Luke said, he was planning on it for 3 years, and it's definitely something that was bouncing around and that he's given a lot of thought to. He and I talked about it for over 2 years once he started really, I don't want to say getting serious about it, but once he knew what he really wanted to tell. And then what it came down to was really just getting an artist he was happy with. He saw Sergio on our Project Superpower series, and we were debating.
That's not where I found him. Sergio did the artwork on a short story I wrote for Red Zone
Oh.
100. And
I
it
have
was
a
one of
bad
my-
memory,
that
right,
was my
Derek?
That was my favorite short story. He did such a beautiful job on it. I wanted Sergio.
And we had him on Project Superpowers, and we were looking at what we were going to be doing with Gale and Max Bemis with Black Terror. And we just said, you know, Luke really, this story is special to Luke. This is important to him. He's been working on it for over 2 years. When Sergio's done the first story arc on Project Superpowers, let's put him on Birth of the She-Devil, and we could always bring Sergio back for a new series. And that's how that happened. You know, things can change with enough planning. But now it's your turn, Christopher.
Oh, okay. So I was in the witness protection program, and
I stalked them.
Nick Roach stalked me.
This is actually kind of dangerous right here.
You know,
Exposing yourself.
you know what it is. Truthfully, is I guess like most writers, I get tired of writing the same thing over and over again. God knows, as readers, as consumers, you got to be tired of reading the same thing over again, or you go into these superhero movies, and it's the same movie. The costumes have changed, the actors have changed, but I'll bet you there's going to be a big fight at the end. You
And a
know,
misunderstanding in the beginning.
yeah, right. You know, spoiler alert. You know, so Nick comes up behind me and kind of like starts talking in my ear, and he says Vampirella, and I just kind of stop in my tracks and I go, huh. You know, that's really different. I have written a few Vampirella stories over the years. Some of them I've completely forgotten, obviously, because people go, oh yeah, you wrote something for Harris. I did? Really? You know, yes, you did. But it being her 50th anniversary, and I think, you know, if I was able to bring my own sort of warped approach to comics, to the character, if I can, you know, maintain the integrity of the character while still giving it a new spin, so we're not reading yet another more of the same. And then I went back and I read some of particularly the Dynamite stuff, where several writers have come along and they've been given a relatively free hand in crafting their story so that they can, you know, do their version of Vampirella. It presented an interesting challenge to me, so I said, okay, sure, let's give that a shot, and that's how I got involved with the character.
And he wasn't kidding about the stalking. I actually drove 5.5 hours to Terrificon last year in August and waited in line. Almost missed him because he was done signing at 5. I was supposed to be there by 3 and got there a little bit after 5, but fortunately he had a long line. I don't know how many of you people know this, but you know, Christopher is honestly one of the most well-respected writers the industry has ever had.
No, not really.
Yes,
no,
you
no.
are.
There was
Yes,
this
you
picture
are.
called Black Panther, and
Besides,
you might have seen it.
Besides that,
No. I before that I was driving buses. It was awful. Yeah.
So I drove up there. He and I have been talking about working together for 2 years, or basically I kept asking him to work with us for 2 years, and he kept saying, let me think about it. And I said, look, it's Vampirella's 50th anniversary. Issue number 1, if it's good, has to come out July 17th, first day of San Diego. I need an answer when you get back home. You're either in or out. We can't delay this anymore. When you fly back, I'll give you a day and I'll call you. But you know, even if we live to be 100, we won't be able to do anything. Neither one of us will be able to do anything if we're still alive. So let's make the 50th work. And a few days later, he agreed. And then, like a bunch of emails and phone calls, he said, "You're not going to like my ideas, and you're going to fire me real quick." And we were like, "No, we're not. We know who we hired. We hired Christopher Priest." So,
Thank you.
Mark.
Yeah, I'm a huge ancient history nerd, and I've always kind of want to write a fantasy title. So I spoke to Nate Cosby, who's like an editor at large, and he works really closely with you guys. And so when he broached the possibility of writing a Red Sonja title. I thought, well, that's perfect. It's like, so I try to look for titles, that people know about, that have a lot of cultural equity already in them, and then I try to bring something new to it, and the new thing is like what else in the world outside of comics I'm really fascinated by. And so I thought this is like a perfect property to write about what I consider some of the best fantasy ever written, which is our own ancient history here on Earth. So I wanted to imbue the Red Sonja story with a lot of like influences from reading the histories of Herodotus and other ancient sources, and it's just been a thrill for me to be able to do that.
And you wrote The Lone Ranger too first.
Yeah, and the Lone Rangers I chose, again, for kind of similar reasons. It's sort of like the embodiment of the American mythology, which is the story of the Old West. And it's kind of about like him trying to save the Old West from destroying itself with barbed wire.
It's pretty cool. Derek,
Nick.
can you repeat the question?
Sorry.
Did I tackle you or did you come to us? And I think it's another case where I tackled you.
You mean
On the boys.
You came at me like really hard, which was we were old friends. We started at Wildstorm. The boys had a very funny path. It's the most successful failure I've ever had because it started out. Somebody didn't get a memo way up high at DC, and Wildstorm was thrilled to have us. We were working with Ben Abernathy, who's one of my favorite people and editors.
It was a great selling book.
It was selling like gangbusters. It was a hit out of the gate. They had promoted it. They had a big thing of the cover on the booth at DC, and I was pushing really hard for it to get exposure too. I even made my own little animated preview trailer that I brought on a disc. I'm like, put this on rotation at the booth. And so it wasn't like we were being secretive about it. And the poster even said, this is from the guy that wrote Preacher and the guy that drew Transmetropolitan, and the front cover said, this is going to hurt. We warned everybody what we were, and Garth was famous, had said, it's going to out-preacher Preacher. So we weren't being shy about what we were going to do. But it was I was way ahead on issues right up until the moment we found out that like the higher-ups at DC were very unhappy with our book. Even though it was selling like crazy, because it's filthy.
Because of the content. Because
Is that all?
it's what would
Because
happen if
it's
the
shocking
Justice League
and
was
horrible
demented.
and
But at the same
not
time,
fit for
it's
people.
not like you showed Batman's penis or anything.
They would save that for later.
They were told they weren't allowed to, and then they let somebody else do it. Right?
Yeah, well, what's crazy was we had this book, and it was a huge hit, and it was making a huge controversy, and all of a sudden they, basically pulled the plug on us. I had planned to have a 5-year job, and I just bought a house and took on a mortgage at a time when nobody should have.
2 kids.
As we all remember, I had my second son had been born,
Yeah.
and I was all tucked in to do a whole weekend of inking, and I got the phone call, and I walked out to my wife in the garage, and I was like, I just got canceled. We're done. It was like, what? It's selling great. They weren't going to publish the trade paperback, and they were going to basically move us over to another department and kind of keep an eye on us. And we could take it somewhere else. And so Garth and I both agreed, like, we didn't want to water the book down. We'd rather do the book we believed in and take our chances. And as I said, I had planned to work all weekend and suddenly didn't have a job. So I said to my wife, like, let's take the kids to Disneyland. And we got in the car and we drove. And I just was going to like make the best out of the situation. And I'm driving back and my phone would not stop blowing up. We were getting offers from every publisher in the industry. Wow. And by the time I got home, everybody wanted the book because it was selling like crazy. But then Nick was, it was the most professional phone call I've ever had with you, then or since. But you called and you were laying it all out, like what you were going to do for us and what you wanted. You were sending me product. I was like, I got a hard sell from one of my oldest friends in the industry. But at the end of the day, that's ultimately what made me decide that the best place. I consulted Garth, but we decided you were the best fit for the book. And what was really wonderful about it is that we were able to do the book exactly as we wanted to do it. We had no interference from then on. And when we relaunched, it was bigger than ever because the controversy had fueled the sales. And
we told everybody this is not going to get watered down. to give a little bit more background, a year before this happened, or 8 months or something, we were at a Wizard World Philly show, and we were at the bar, and I was waiting to buy Derek a drink, and Derek was talking to Charles Brownstein of the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund. And if you guys haven't supported the fund, please donate. It's very good. We may need it one day with the boys and some of the other books we publish. Derek was talking so passionately to Charles about this new series that he was doing and how great it was and how it was going to be the best series he's ever been involved in, and the characters he was creating and the world he was creating. And the second that book came out, that was the first book I read the day it came out. And then every issue after that, as much as I'm a Flash fan, as much as I'm a Daredevil fan, as much as I'm a superhero fan, when The Boys came out, I had to read it. The second I saw on the comics beat that The Boys was canceled and and that DC was reverting the rights, I just got on the phone with Derek, called Garth, and just said, guys, this is the best book on the market today.
You were so passionate about it.
Yeah.
That's actually why I knew it would be in the best hands with you, because you didn't just see it as a marketing thing. You were a fan of the book.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what makes the TV show lovely too, because that's what Kripke came and told me was, I wanted to do this show because I love the comics. When everybody's on the same page like that, it just breeds good creative product.
Yeah.
We have 2 canceled books up here because Mark went through that. Mark went through that recently as well.
I'm getting
But because
weird
Mark
sense
worked,
of deja vu.
Oh, just
but because
very
Mark
similar
worked
to
with
what
us, we
happened
weren't
to
good
me.
enough.
It's very similar to what happened to me with Second Coming, where
oh yeah,
I was on Vertigo and everything was going great.
I'm talking to
and they were
Richard all the
happy with
time
it.
right now about that. I didn't realize you were the writer of
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
Richard and I have been commiserating. The artist is Richard Pace. He's a friend of mine.
Yeah, everything was great until it wasn't.
Yeah, isn't that the weirdest feeling though? It's
Yeah.
like, wait a second, it's a success, but it's canceled. Why do you not want money? I don't understand why you would not. Aren't you in the publishing business?
But yeah, no. In the end, I think it all works out because you take it to the place it needs to be.
Yeah, but also it's like I hate to coin a cliche, but controversy sells. It's crazy how much that thing caught fire. Watching that catch fire after we were doing okay, but as soon as it got canceled, boy, everyone wanted to tell people what they can't look at, and that's what people want.
Yeah, definitely.
So, good corporate decision-making at DC.
Yeah.
Those people aren't there.
Sir?
Any plans for revamping Legion of Flores and the Warlord of Mars?
We actually do have a series we will be announcing possibly before New York Comic Con or at New York Comic Con on the new series we'll be doing.
Hopefully by the tail of new launch by the end of this year, beginning of next.
Yeah, it'll be December or January. Or another month if it's not ready yet. No, kidding. Next.
I literally just had that conversation with them.
Everybody's so shy. Come on, there you go.
What plans do you guys have for James Bond? You still putting out books?
Oh yeah, right now we have the Greg Pak 007 still coming out, and Origin with Jeff Parker is still coming out. And then we teased a new series that we haven't made the full announcement, but Joe might be more apt
No,
at
we teased
saying.
it. I don't think we're going beyond the tease, but.
Well, we announced the
teased-
creative
we
team,
announced the creative
Gaspar.
team, and Vita Ayala and her co-writer, and we're looking at the tail end of this year for that series as well.
Yep.
And also the second, also out this year will be the second adaptation of the second adaptation we've done of Live and Let Die. So of the second Fleming book. So we did Casino Royale last year and Live and Let Die this year. So I think we've talked with Mark about doing some Bond stuff too.
Yeah.
So
Mr. Avalon.
So if you're doing Live and Let Die, have you assigned anyone to Moonraker yet?
This guy Ian Fleming is doing the layout of it.
I do have a person in the queue, but there's how many books? There's
17.
no. There's well, I mean, isn't there like
Diamonds Are Forever is terrible, though. I don't want to do that. I don't want to wait until you only live twice, guys.
yeah. Noted.
Never say
By the way,
never.
that's David Avalon, who writes Betty Page and Elvira for us. Has also written a ton of stuff for us.
Why is he not up here?
Yeah, what's that about? Is it a white thing?
Want to come join us?
You want me to come up?
Come
Come
on
on
up.
up. Come on, it's a Family Feud. Price is Right, one of those.
loving Red Sonja.
Oh, thanks.
So great.
And Mark, what are the names of your? I love them so much, but I forget the names. The Bible, the two Bible books that you did.
Oh, I wrote 2 books about the Bible called God is Disappointed in
Yes.
You and Apocrypha Now.
And this we didn't publish them, but before I knew Mark, and actually before I read any of the comic stuff, I'd read those, and even if you're atheist, agnostic, whatever, they are laugh out loud funny. They are 2 of the best humor books about the Bible I've ever read.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I kind of feel like everything that's been written about the Bible has been written with an agenda, either trying to sell you
No
on
way.
it or trying to knock it down. And I just want to write a book that, like, this is just what it says.
Yeah.
You know, for better or for worse, do with it what you will.
They're great. Highly recommended.
Robert Crohn's Genesis is great for that.
Illustrations
Yeah,
by
exactly.
Shannon Wheeler, right?
I love
Yeah,
Shannon.
Shannon
Oh,
Wheeler,
Shannon's great.
Too Much Coffee Man, New Yorker fame,
highly
did
recommend.
all the cartoons for
You
it.
ever read Kyle Baker's King David?
Yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff.
No.
It's really great.
Oh,
I
I'll have
recommend
to check it
highly.
out.
If you
Not
guys,
to talk about a book that Dynamite doesn't publish.
well, I was
I started it.
I was about-
You did. That's
I was
right.
about to say, you know, the book that really drew me to Mark was The Flintstones. I mean, it had
Yeah.
beautiful art by Steve Pugh, but the scene that got me the most, I can't remember what issue it was, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, between 1 and 10. But yeah, exactly. No, but there was a scene where they were getting ready to go to war, and Fred has reservations, and he looks on the floor and says to Barney, what kind of military people bring their kids to a war? And it was so powerful and so gut-wrenching, just so well said and so well drawn by Steve. And I was like, wow, this really tugs at your heart.
It was the moment where he realized he'd been lied to.
Exactly,
They've been
exactly.
convinced they're fighting this defensive war to stop the tree people from coming and taking over Bedrock. But then in the charred aftermath of the big battle,
Right.
he finds all these dolls and stuff, and he realizes that they were the aggressors.
Yeah, it was just such a powerful realization, and just looking at the doll on the floor. Like I said, it was perfectly done.
Have you done, Luke's looking amazed because I don't think he's
it's
read,
just-
could never possibly imagine.
You
that
went a
they do this
very
under the
different
Flintstones.
direction with the Flintstones from a Saturday morning cartoon experience.
Well, I'll make it
I have a
quick.
Flintstones question.
So about Snagglepuss.
Yeah,
I have a question that only Mark can answer at this point. There's a Flintstones Christmas special. How is that possible?
Oh, right, yeah. No, in my version,
Is
they
it
were...
BC? When
It's
sent?
BBBC. It's
Isn't the Flintstones set
WBBC, way
BC?
before
Yeah.
BC.
Yes, that is the most unrealistic thing about
Yeah.
We actually
of all
broached
of the
this.
things, that really.
They said, you know, this is a little ticklish, but, you know, what if we were to do a Flintstones Christmas special, you know, set before Christ?
Yeah.
I was like, well, they in my book, they worship Gerald. They don't.
Right.
Gerald.
Their religion is the First Church of Gerald.
Well,
So we just have Geraldmas.
this is where I always like to point out that How the Grinch Stole Christmas, that does not take place on the earth. Those people are not Christian. They have antenna,
Yes, it's
guys.
true.
That is not. How are they Christians? They have
think
they
they're-
have antenna. There's a green monster that lives in the hills. It's a great story.
Wait, you're telling me
You know,
it's not
you
a
know what? Wait,
documentary?
wait,
It's
wait.
not
I
a
just realized
documentary.
something.
But
We're
that
still,
always-
we're still on the
My
Dynamite
illusions are
panel,
shattered.
right?
Yeah.
So any Dynamite questions?
Yeah.
If you like the fuse and don't, no, I'm sorry.
That's it.
Yeah, I was wondering if there are going to be any more Dresden Files.
There will be, actually. It'll be next year. Jim Butcher's been very busy, and just like any creator, it had to wait for the right story. So he gave us, you know, as you know, Jim Butcher's very involved in every OGM we do, and he finally decided all of our Jim Butcher books, almost all of our prose novels, if not all of them, our original graphic novels, are all in continuity. So we had to wait till Jim, you know, it's kind of like we had to wait for Jim to say, here's a story that will fit in continuity that my fans will love that I don't want to tell. It's like, I want to tell it, I want it to be told, but I've got these 6 other stories I got to get to. So here's the one that I'm comfy with you guys doing and me working with. He's got a great relationship with Mark Powers. Mark has done a fantastic job just really giving it the same voice. Yeah, you know. So it'll be next year. Yep. Yeah, right? No, I mean, it's worth waiting for, you know? It's worth waiting for. Next, yes.
What are your prospects for television or movie adaptations for Vampirella and Sonya?
Well, Sonia would be up to him to say, not up to me. And Vampirella is looking really good, and we want to make sure that what works with the comics is going to work. And we've lobbied. We'll see what happens. The producers, we haven't made an announcement yet. There's something coming together, but we've had Christopher talk to the producers already about possibly being involved. So we'll see where that goes.
And they ran for the hills.
Yes, and they took Chris with them. They're like, we're keeping him. He's not going anywhere until this movie script is done.
I'm just wondering, in this highly politicized environment, you know, where every constituency of, you know, if you're a longshoreman, you know, oh, you offended the longshoremen, you know, everybody has this very vocal group that you know, so you're going to do like a Vampirella movie. I mean, as soon as you do the movie poster, unless all you see is her eyes, you know, I could see this just being controversy right out of the box.
Well, Pam's mother is legally blind, so if we just see her eyes, she may take offense to that.
Oh my God.
So
Yeah. But at any rate, you know, I think it'd be great. It all depends on, well, what I've noticed, and hopefully you have too, is I think at some point Hollywood realized the more seriously we take the properties and the more seriously we take the fans, the more money we make. Every time we belittle the property or belittle the fans, Green Hornet, you know, Green Lantern. Green things.
Thank God it's not Green Sonya.
Yeah, you know, so.
Green Martians of Mars, John Carter.
You know, there was a Vampirella, a really awful Vampirella
Oh God,
movie.
it's so awful. It's great. I gotta tell you, if you guys ever get a chance to watch it, it is so awful. It's great. I swear to God, they told every actor act horribly. It is literally like every single actor acted horribly. I'm like, oh my God, how did they do that? That must have taken so much work and coordination. So it's really like an hour and 45 minutes of your life you'll never get back, but it's the train wreck you never knew you wanted to watch.
Is that the one? Is Roger Daltrey in that?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
He is. And he wasn't wearing his glasses, so it was even better.
And then they put her in a very safe costume, a very like PG costume.
A little bit, not much.
Okay.
But it was really, really badly acted. Oh my God. I watched it once. I can never unsee it. So,
You know, so I think Hollywood has learned their lesson. So I'd be very optimistic. And
not with Green Lantern and Green Hornet, they didn't.
I don't know. I think it's a lesson that Hollywood has to continually be retaught. In terms of the Red Sonja movie, actually, last time I saw that dude at the end of the table, it was in a room talking about a movie because he is in Jill Soloway's writer's room, effectively, which I thought was interesting is that Jill approached it with a writer's room. That was more common to television, the kind of brainstorming where you get a group of creators in a room, and that's, you know, because traditionally feature films have been a guy in a cave somewhere typing away at a computer.
Or a girl in the cave, come on.
Yes,
there are two genders, right, Christopher?
Yeah.
Well,
Only two.
more than two at this point. So I was interested to see that was the approach she was taking. It's still pretty early days with Jill. I think we just announced it.
It did boil down to just one guy in a cage, by the way. Just between you and me and our close personal friends in this room.
So were you the guy in the cave?
At the end of the process, it was just me working on the treatments. just we'll see what happens from here on in, but that's where we're at now.
This is a little abrupt, but I gotta head out to make another panel. But thank you all.
Oh my God, 2 years in a row.
I know. I get the worst time panel.
It's like a 1970s talk show.
Yeah. The gentleman back there had a question. I think that the
Nice comic.
chances of that happening are not anywhere in the near future. For the most important reason is that Cassandra is very involved with the books, and she is very meticulous about them. As you probably know, being a fan, they are running a little bit late. So we're right now trying to make sure she's happy with the 2 series we have currently. And before we launch a new series, we're going to have more issues ready to go so that we can be on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the plan. The current run, I think, is going to wrap at 12.
Correct.
Dave Acosta is drawing number 9.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we're going to stick with Dave and Dave, the two Daves. We've got Dave squared here, and they will launch the new series.
Yeah. We'll come up with something else.
We honestly, the thing we wanted to do was Betty Page Elvira, just because David writes both of them.
Yeah.
We thought that would be kind of cool on different levels. So you may, with a little bit of luck and the stars aligning, you will probably see that first.
Yeah. And I have a premise for that already. I haven't shared it yet, but
Of course he does. He's good.
Thanks.
Staying with Elvira, you've reprinted the Marvel Red Sonja stuff, the John Carter stuff. Has there been any thought to reprinting the Claypool?
Next year.
Oh, there you go.
We're looking at 4 omnibuses. That is the plan as of today. It may end up changing, we don't know, but there's 166 issues. So a lot of thought process goes into making these decisions. Price point of the omnibuses, what is best to the audience? Is it more in one volume at a higher price point, but still a better value? Or is it smaller doses? Should we be giving the fans $19.99 price points or $29.99 price points with more stories in there? Where do the stories break? You know, are they ongoing series, ongoing arcs? Are they done in ones? All the factors that go into it. So we haven't made any final decisions, but the tentative plan is 4 omnibuses as of right now, 2 next year and 2 the year after. Next. Come on, somebody from this side. We haven't gotten anybody from this side. Don't be shy.
When do I get to do my Red Sonja covers?
Whenever you want.
Yeah, pretty much.
We discussed it in November. I haven't been very good about following up. So.
We've got a mini that Mark's actually writing on tap for next year. It'd be good to start you from the beginning rather than stick you on like number 10 or something.
Oh,
like
I'd
that.
be happy to. I was joking, but
I'll
I'd
make
love
a
to.
note.
It's one of my favorite characters.
By the way, everybody, real quick, the great Stephen Grant just walked in. Let's give Stephen Grant a hand. 2 Guns, the movie based on his comics. So, remember, for us people who are a little bit older, or really old, Punisher, Mike Zeck, 5 issues.
Oh, nice.
One of the best series that ever came out. So, everybody, Stephen Grant.
I worked with you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Priest, you've played with a lot of people's other toys for years now to great success and really enjoy them. Wondering if you have any originals that you might be bringing, of course, to Dynamite to share with us.
Yes, but there's two problems. One is I'm very busy, and the other is that I'm very lazy. And if you go to ChristopherPriest.com/Amazon, you'll see I've got a bunch of novels, and one of them is like a series of that's based on. I have my own superhero universe, you know, that I could probably talk to Nick about at some point. That's up there, but it's all prose novels, of course. But yeah, I thought about it. I wanted to do it. I wanted to get around to do it, and every time I'm just about have the time to do it, I get a call from Nick Barucci, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you do Banana Man?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." You know.
I want to read Banana.
That's Banana
Yes.
Man. That's 2021, I think.
2021?
I'm going to trademark it.
Question over here.
Comics and things are very self-directed by the writers and things, and there's not as much pushback maybe at Dynamite the way people write books and draw books. But how do you keep people from like running their book off into the weeds?
Story-wise, or
Yes.
Story and art. I mean, if you think about like the stuff that was going on in like the '90s, where you know the artists just took their book and they would just draw whatever, and then 5 splash pages, and everybody just kind of hated everything.
Well, right now we ask for splash pages for slow artists. So when you see a book that's half splash pages, it's a slow art.
well, Luke got that note when he was writing Tree Devil because Sergio wanted more splashes and more spreads, and also sometimes the artists want those things because that's a better selling page on the
Yeah.
original art market, you know, than
Or a
page of
print.
Talking Heads.
Yeah, but also with the pacing, you know, you want to have those moments. I have to
want those
remind
moments.
myself to put those in.
Right.
You know.
Me too.
I mean,
when it's
what I
powerful.
would say,
like it means
just
something.
having been a licensor on site, you know, it's usually better to kind of step in and give your notes at the treatment phase
Yeah.
when the story's being laid out, because
Don't
it's
let it
easier
get
to
that
make
far,
it's
yeah.
easier to make adjustments before people start jumping down rabbit holes, and then they either have to throw out a bunch of work, or you can try to figure out how to back it up, and you know, it's like once you start building the building, changing things is hard. It takes more time. This is holding weight for this other thing over here. If you move this, this is going to fall down. It's easier to just easier to
Yep.
do that when it's a 5-page, you know, story treatment for a 6-issue arc. That's usually when you step in.
And also, there's a little bit of a comfort level and a relationship. I mean, we are a smaller publisher, so when we're talking to creators, I mean, you know, there are artists like Derek where you just have a leap of faith that no matter what he's doing has a reason for it. So if Derek actually decided to do 6 splash pages in a row, or no, seriously, if he decided that, there would be a reason for it. It's not just to get past it, not just for original art sales. It's, and again, you know, I can
That's high
never say
praise, thank you.
it's
You
for
learn-
story reason, and I can never say this enough. You know, I said this early in the panel. Derek has one of the most enviable careers in the industry, and it's because he knows how to tell a story.
It's always like, for me, that's always been the drive in comics. Like, I'm a slave to the story. I think that's why my collaborations have been successful, because, you know, I want to get into the writer's head as much as possible, and you know, it's something that Joe mentioned, like some people will draw because they go, oh, I'll be able to sell this later. They're not thinking about the story. I think about the story a lot. I write as well, I'm just not known for it, but as somebody who writes enough to respect it, I have a great deal of respect for anything that I'm drawing of somebody else's, that I want to get into their head and understand what they would draw if they were drawing.
Can I ask you a
Yeah,
question without naming any names, but have you ever worked with a writer that you maybe felt wasn't as strong, and you felt like
Many
you needed,
times.
you needed to
Yeah, no,
kind
like
of,
I've done a
they
lot
needed
of.
to get in your head for a minute? here,
Yeah,
and
I
like-
took on, well, I had to, over the last few years, like when you go into creator-owned or you're helping somebody out with an indie project, a lot of times they have great intention, but they don't know comics. And you can really tell, I mean, and this is not disparaging at all, but the current comic I'm doing, Oliver, for Image, with Gary Whitta. Gary's a screenwriter, and he has written comics, but there's a lot where I've gone in there and done some deconstruction to say, oh no, let's move this scene here, because when you open the book, it's more interesting to see him doing this rather than sweeping a floor. Let's have him jumping off a building, because that's more attention grabbing. And also there's a break between issues. If you're watching a movie, that segue might be very natural between, you know, a transition, but in a comic book and you've waited a month, you want to pick up where it's exciting. You
Yeah,
know?
in
So-
a movie that could be 35 seconds,
Right,
and you
yeah.
get right
Because the
into
movie
it. But
isn't
in
a
a comic, a page is a page.
So,
Yeah.
so we're adapting his screenplay, but he's listening to me when I come back and say, hey, let's do it this way, and it's been a really fun collaboration, but it's only because, you know, he's not as experienced. I've been doing comics since I was 17, so, you know, professionally, and in love with them since I was 10, so I'm always dedicated to try and bring the story to life, because to me, that was the part that I fell in love with as a little boy, I remember, because I'm a big Flash fan too, as
Yeah.
we've discussed, and I always remembered being fascinated. It wasn't even a particularly good issue of the Flash. It was, but I remember falling in love with how you could follow him running through the page, each pose, and it felt like it was alive, because compositionally it all worked, and it was a single image with a lot of little drawings of the Flash in motion, but in my mind as a 10-year-old, it all came to life. That's the piece that made me go, I want to do this, and
Right.
I've been in love with that process ever since.
We're down to the 2-minute mark. Actually, he told us to stop, but I asked for 2 more minutes, and he agreed. So any last questions? We got to be quick. Go ahead. All right, you two are the last two. Go.
Pathfinder,
Yes. We have 2 OGNs we're working on. So we haven't announced them yet, but they are in process.
Quick question for Mr. Priest. What led you to stop writing and drive a bus for long?
I think he
Oh,
was
gosh.
kidding. He was kidding.
No, actually, I did drive a bus for quite a while. I quit once in '88, I think. I quit comics. I just got fed up, you know, with it. And I always wanted to drive a bus. I still have my bus driver's license. I have it on me right now. It's my fallback position there. I drove tour buses out of the Port Authority in New York. That's a true story.
I thought you were kidding.
No,
I thought he was kidding too.
that's a true story. And then in 2005, Marvel decided to, I was writing Captain America and the Falcon, and then Marvel decided to take Captain America out of the book and relaunch it as the Falcon. And I felt like I was being demoted, and I felt like, you know, like, oh, I can't write white characters or whatever, but I got burnt out, and I just stepped away from comics for almost a decade.
Wait, you can't write white characters?
Apparently not.
Wow, wait, okay, we got it.
No, Vampirella she's not white, she's vampire.
You know,
Okay.
it's making me think of a funny story. Like, you remember the old Mego action figures?
Yeah.
Like, if you go on YouTube and see the commercials that they did, and they're playing this music, like this marching music, dun dun dun, world's greatest superheroes, and then you could tell the people doing the commercial had never read any of the comics, and when it gets to, like, you know, Invisible Woman, and she can turn invisible, and then they get to the Falcon, they go, Falcon, great black superhero, and that's all they had to say about him. I'm like,
Thank you.
he flies.
And that is our show. Thank you very much, everybody.